Hi everyone, my name is Tias. I'm the current business recruiter in Munich office for Flix Mobility. Today I will be speaking to Pietro Palonini. Pietro is the head of sales and is responsible for the global offline sales outlet for FlixBus. Today he will give us insights into how his team is working, how they manage the global offline sales activities and its challenges, especially during the pandemic. So Pietro, would you kindly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So hi, Tias, and hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'll be quick about myself because I think we have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
So just a bit of my story in FlixBus and before FlixBus. I've been in the company for, let's say, more than 3.5 years. And 2.5, I spent them in the Italian entity, leading the Italian sales team and actually building the foundations of what is also our global function today. And then in September 2019, I moved to Munich headquarters, where I took over as head of global sales, basically tasked with leading the function in all of our markets and possibly also innovating it. Before FlixBus, I have a mixed background, I would say, between marketing and sales. So I started in product companies, taking care of sales and business development, a lot of foreign markets, a lot of traveling, a lot of hands shaking for, let's say, 4 or 5 years. Then I also freelanced a bit because I wanted to explore, let's say, different ways to tackle sales and business development topics. And then I also had a 2-year experience in a consulting firm, taking care of digital marketing projects, mainly related to B2B lead acquisition and e-commerce development. So both strategy and the actual campaign part related to omnichannel activities. And then I landed here in FlixBus.
In FlixBus. Okay, so you have a very well-rounded background, and we're so happy to have you on board in FlixBus. So why don't you explain to us a little bit more on your day-to-day activities in sales, your main course in your team?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we like to say that offline sales in FlixBus is like the front line of marketing in general, because we deal with offline point of sales, so physical premises, physical venues, and because of this, we are also more exposed to what happens every day, let's say, in the business and on the streets. We can sum up our job as a mix of business development and sales development, because we actually take care of a lot of activities that can go from a very broad range. Imagine managing a whole country, a portfolio of thousands of resellers, but going all the way down to ABM, which is account-based marketing, which means we take care very carefully of our top resellers, of our top sales partners, and that requires, let's say, a lot of energy, a lot of analysis.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and then you can simply imagine different retailers, different partners that we work with. Everybody has their specific needs, specific setups. You can also add on top of that every country has different laws, maybe different regulations, different also customs and cultural aspects that you have to take into consideration. That's on the core part of our job, which means maintaining a relationship with our retailers and pushing their results. Then we also take care of additional, let's say, channels within the offline world, which is gift cards, which is something that we are trying to push now, much more compared to the past, for example, because during the COVID emergency, a lot of companies were pushing credit vouchers, and we realized it's time also for us to, let's say, push a bit on the gas in terms of additional products. And then we also deal with ticket machines, which are actually a very interesting topic, because they're the connection between a lot of different functions in the company and outside the company. They are always, I would say, interesting projects. In general, what we do is trying to bring more value to our partners, be it resellers or infrastructure partners that maybe can host our machines or our gift cards, by looking at numbers, trying to identify sweet spots where they can actually benefit first of all, and consequentially we can strive and try to achieve our targets for the channel.
Okay, that's very interesting. So I guess from what you say, you also deal with a lot of data to make a decision. So do you also use these data to predict demand in offline sales and to also look for the next suitable business partner?
Absolutely. Depending on the countries, as I said, we can go from, let's say, sidekicks to main contributors. And then again, it's mainly related to the cultural, let's say, aspects of a specific country. Sometimes cash is still king. So that's usually where we are the main characters, or at least we are under the spotlight. The only difference compared to online channels is that being, let's say, indirect sales, we don't have access to as much customer data, let's say, availability or in general information as online channels can do, because they track directly. So what we do is focus much more on product analysis rather than customer analysis. And from that, so what has been sold, how often, how does it change according to what's happening in a specific market or in a specific, partner, for example. Then from that, we try to reverse engineer all the way back to defining some buyers personas. So we have loyal demand, unloyal demand, one-timers, because maybe people are just buying some tickets to go through Europe, and starting from there, we basically try to identify clusters also of products, and then we engage our resellers, basically explaining them what our findings are and providing them suggestions. We go from very broad, let's say, discussions like, I don't know, in your city, we see a lot of demand on product XYZ, while in your specific sales mix, this product is not really being pushed. So we advise you to try and do that, and maybe we can support them by providing in-store visibility for the specific product, or maybe for the brand in general. Sometimes we even support them in setting up the activity itself. We also have cases in the past of collaboration with our offline marketing team. So the street promotion team they were actually helping us in driving people to the points of sales. That can also be an example of cross-functional interaction. And as I was saying, then we can go down very to laser-focused inputs or activities, like tweaking the hours of the day when a point of sales should be open, because we see that untapped demand is being distributed to the competitors. So maybe by just working a couple of hours more, they can actually increase their revenues. That's basically how we treat data to serve the channel. And then, of course, data is basically the DNA of the company. So, I mean, it's what we do every day in terms of sales, in terms of product, in terms of efficiency. So are we spending our budget in the best possible way? What if we tweak it slightly less or slightly more? Can we drive incrementality? I mean, that's our ABC. And I mean, data, a lot of them every day.
Okay, that's really cool, actually, what you're doing. And I have my curiosity. I mean, you say that, from the data, I suggested something to your business partners or to the resellers. And were there any, I don't know, a rejection from them about your ideas? Or was there a tough collaboration in some of the channels you have so far?
Yes, as in every partnership that goes, let's say, that extends in time. So in the beginning, especially when we open a market or when we set foot there for the first time, let's say we are the new kids on the block, okay? And maybe you are dealing with companies and entrepreneurs that have been doing that business for 30, 40 years. So on one side, it's sometimes a bit hard to get into conversation with them. On the other side, we usually engage them directly with actionable data or insights.
Okay.
Say, hey, we are new here. We would like to work with you to prove, let's say, our good faith. We already studied a bit your case, what the potential outcomes could be if we work together, and we would like to offer you, let's say, to test us. That's also that's actually something that we do quite a lot. So I mean, working with us doesn't have any string attached. There are no costs, no setup fees, nothing. Okay, so that already puts them quite at ease. On top of that, we want to show them that we actually mean business. We are serious on what we do, and we actually try to bring them something valuable from day one. Then, of course, in time you can have conflicting interests. I would say on specific cases. So maybe we would like to push a set of lines, while in this set of lines only a couple are very profitable for the sales partner. So maybe we try to compensate and we modulate our incentive programs. I will give you more if you sell A, and I will give you slightly less if you sell B, because B is already being sold a lot, so you're already making money from it. So yeah, but I mean, any partnership, any relationship that goes in time, that goes ahead in time, you know, you will have moments of let's say clash or at least discussion. I think the key is to always keep the long term and the big picture in mind, which is building value for both parts, let's say, of the deal.
Yeah, sustainable partnership, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so from what you said to me, the incentive, so that means that the reseller doesn't really have a target on how much they have to sell, but the point is the more they sell, the more money they have. I guess that's the whole strategy within the sales, right?
Yeah, so we don't set targets for everybody, but we set targets for let's say our main accounts, our key accounts, or strategic resellers for two reasons. The first one is internal, and the second one is, of course, in terms of managing the channel. The internal reason is that we need to provide other marketing channels and in general business stakeholders with at least a prediction of how much they can expect to come from our channel. So going totally targetless, let's say, and let's see how much they make is, of course, not an option. I mean, on one side, you have historical data, so you know what to expect. On the other side, it's our job to bring some level of commitment to the table and say, okay, dear colleagues, this month you can expect at least this much coming from our channel. And then in terms of engaging the resellers, of course, we use a lot of incentives, bonuses. And in order to do that, of course, you have to set a target to them. We tend to be, let's say, pretty assertive in target setting, because we proved to be right in the past many times. So maybe you get into the discussion, the partner says, hey guys, I think it's a bit too much. Yes, but we are there supporting you every day. I mean, we tweak the product offer with them every day if it's necessary when we are launching, let's say, relevant campaigns or relevant incentive programs. And usually they hit their targets and they are pretty happy. So that just, you know, we go back to the previous topic, that helps build trust. So they are more willing to be engaged by us in the future. And that's basically how we roll on a daily basis with accounts.
Sure, that's great. And the next question coming, so is there a different strategy in terms of pricing from those tickets we sell online and offline?
Short answer is no. The general strategy is to be as much transparent as possible with the customers, and also to, let's say, keep the customer experience in general, the shopping experience, I would say, as linear as possible across channels. On the other side, our channel can apply some service fees, or let's say intermediation fees, but that's totally up to the reseller. So it's something that we discuss with them. We recommend them certain thresholds that should not be exceeded, for example. But then again, it depends on market standards, local practices, the nature of the retailer. Imagine buying a ticket at a kiosk next to a rail station, and imagine buying it in a travel agency belonging to a big and fancy chain. The experience will be different, and then of course they are entitled to charge different service fees. But the pricing strategy is the same everywhere. That also helps us in applying some pressures to the retailer sometimes. So if somebody's getting pretty aggressive with their service fees, they will automatically become a non-competitive option for the customers, because they know that the price is the same everywhere. So yeah, the idea is this, and also we are basically trying to be a replacement for the app if a customer doesn't have the app with them at any given moment. So we aim to be everywhere in as many places as possible, and of course they need to know that they can expect the same shopping experience in terms of prices, at least.
Yeah, that's a really great point, actually, because sometimes if your phone is dead and you really need to book a bus, and I easily saw in the bus stop or in some kiosks or airports, that's also important. So it's great. Yeah. And how about if, let's say, so you said that before, back to what you said, you also do, we also do machines in certain points. So I guess this is part of the automation or innovation from the offline sales team. And just two questions on this. So first, would your resellers think of this as a threat because they're also selling the ticket? And the second, is there any other automation or innovation you're doing at the moment within your team?
No and yes. So regarding ticket machines, let's say we are deploying them, or at least evaluating them and then deploying them very carefully, because every machine is a slightly complex project by itself. That's the first important element to consider. So it's something very, very interesting, very useful. Generally, also, it repays itself pretty quickly, but it's not something that we, let's say, cover our markets with. In terms of relationship with the partners, let's say the ticket machines serve two main purposes. The first one is intercepting sales wherever there is no other option. So imagine, I don't know, a mid-sized city that doesn't have a proper bus terminal or bus station, and therefore there is not any possibility to have a physical reseller there. But if demand levels are enough to sustain, let's say, the investment cost of a ticket machine, then of course we will go for it. And wherever we have coexistence with our current sales partners, we never go for a surprise. It's not that one day they open up shop and then they see there is a machine next to them. It's always something that we build together, or in some cases when the partner already told us that they are going to discontinue their business for whatever reason. Also, because you have to consider, we don't have exclusive resellers besides our Flix shops. So shops owned by FlixBus, that we have a bunch across Europe, they of course only sell our product. But all the other resellers, and they are the ones that we manage in our channel, they are just selling different stuff. So if they are ticket shops, they only sell bus tickets. But if they are anything else, travel agency, they can sell anything that a travel agency sells. kiosks, tobacco shops, whatever. So let's say that by putting a machine there, if there is enough untapped demand, it's going to be sometimes beneficial also for the partner, because maybe they are serving mixed demand, and there is a queue coming up, so they can temporarily address the people to the machine. And also, let's not forget that the main perk of a machine is that it's there selling 24/7, while a shop has opening hours. It can have, I don't know, temporary issues that make them shut down for a few times. So that's basically the idea. But we don't do it to, let's say, annoy our sales partners.
For sure.
I mean, we go back to the partnership concept of before.
Okay. All right. That's a really good point. I've actually never seen the machine before, so maybe someday I would. So.
Yeah, we have a few locations, so you have to travel around a bit, and I can point you to where we have them.
Sure. Looking forward for more traveling. Sure. And the next very interesting question from my side is that how would you handle during this COVID situation? Is there a very different strategy that you use?
So let's say COVID-19 was a cold shower for us, specifically for our channel, because I mean, we rely on people going out of their homes, entering shops or physical venues, and interacting with other people to buy a ticket. So COVID basically erased all of this from the board. And in the very first months, we were supporting a lot, at least our key resellers, but in general, the channel, in managing the uncertainty related to especially travel policies, travel rules. And there were a lot of requests for information coming from customers. And of course, they were addressing the same requests to us because they needed to get more information. So we were focusing on supporting them as much as possible. And now what we are trying to do is to support the business ramp up again. So that means, as you know, it's also in the news, we are getting back to our markets. We are putting buses again on the streets, but of course we are looking at a smaller offer, at least in this very moment compared to last year. That means we are touching less cities, and that means there is in general less offer. So our channel is going through, I would say, a lifting or a slight revamp, because what we lost is the long tail at the moment. Very small resellers, one-man companies or small activities that were basically heavily affected, especially on the cash flow and financial side, are no longer there, at least for the time being. And therefore, we are trying to refocus all these floating revenues to currently operating partners. That requires going through a few different analysis loops, because we need to assess the performance of the cities in general, and then we compare it with how we were doing the previous year in terms of share of contribution to the revenues. And then we try to understand if the current network, which of course it's a portion of of last year's network, but it's also different. I mean, it's not just a reduction. You have different connections. How is our field coverage now compared to the current network? Do we need to look for more partners? Do we need to wake up sleepy partners? Do we need to provide them information every week, every 2 weeks about new lines and new relations? So that's what we are focusing on right now. And then it's just a lot of, as I said, support. It's not the core part of our job, but in times like this, we prefer to go the extra mile and be there for them, even supporting them on operational tasks, because we strongly believe that pays off in time. So ideally people will remember of the guys that helped them through this coronavirus emergency. Yeah.
Of course, that's totally very true, and thanks for elaborating that during the challenges during the COVID. So now just my last question from this session, I guess, to close the session as well. So is there other specific strategy to go for the long run or a long-term strategy in offline sales? And is there a very main thing you learned from this pandemic?
So there is a lot coming up for sales, to be honest.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Let's go with order. First of all, we are officially paired with a tech team of developers. Let's say we started in the second half of 2019, but we are getting into the real thing now. And to be honest, this COVID emergency also helped to push some aspects of this integration between a tech team and a business team. So these developers are basically taking care of building the new stack that we will be working with in the future. I mean, we already rely heavily on Salesforce technology and tools. The picture for, I would say, next year or less is to become much more integrated with different Salesforce solutions. And most of them are being custom developed by the developers. And then we are going to get into integrations and automations within the tool and with other tools within the company. So that's going to affect mainly the internal process part. Because today we are still, let's say, looking at a fragmented framework in terms of our activities. And I mean, as in every sales channel of every company, I would say. So the idea is to free up time for our team members and so that they can focus more on the activities that define our job, which is bringing value to the partners and the company. Besides that, we are also constantly reassessing our two pillars of activity, which is partner acquisition and account management. We are thinking about new frameworks to evaluate both the partners and our job on the partners so that we can keep focusing on the most efficient resource spending. And by resource, I mean our time, our mental energy, and many times also our vocal cords, because there can be pretty telephone intensive moments in our ear. And the other main driver, let's say, for innovation is related to the channel itself. So as I said, we want to commoditize our channel as much as possible. That means, for example, having offline points that not only sell tickets, but maybe they can just be payment points. So you can reserve your ticket on the app, then you go into one of these, I don't know, thousands of physical retailer points. They scan a QR code, you can pay in cash, and done. The experience is much more, let's say, aligned with what we want to give to customers because it happens in the app, but then they just go somewhere to pay offline. Also pushing gift card retailers and in general API partners is going to be another, let's say, strategic line that we want to explore. Actually is already happening. So API partners basically allow you to enable sales through anything that can be connected to the internet. Okay, so it can be ticket machines, for example. They work through APIs, but it can be self-service totems. It can be tablets in info points in cities or in municipalities' offices, for example. We are also exploring integrations in handheld or mobile solutions. Of course, not for the end customer, but for B2B partners. So if, I don't know, there is this good example in the US Over there, street sales are actually a big thing. Okay, so there are people on the street intercepting usually tourists, because that's the cluster of customers that need more support over there in terms of buying a ticket on the go, and they have handheld solutions to sell tickets. So that's something that we are also exploring, both technically and commercially. But in general, as I said, we want to be everywhere, and we want to be or to be able to provide the most user-friendly solution and experience to everybody. We want to be the first thing that comes to their mind when they need to buy a ticket and they want to pay with cash. That's it.
Okay, that's very interesting. I learned so much about sales just having this conversation with you, and I hope everybody else would. So, Pietro, thank you so much for having this session with me. And is there two last words you want to say before we close the session?
So, first of all, thanks for having me. I always love talking about what we do. And yeah, what if I have to add something, I just wanted to add it's very, very interesting and challenging, but in a positive way, to take care of offline activity in a purely digital and online driven company. I mean, so far we have benefited a lot. It's like doing old school stuff in a new kid environment, and that's very, very cool. So I can just recommend anybody that at some point could consider joining us to at least give it a try in sales, because I think it can be a pretty fun ride.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, for sure. Sounds really, really fun to join your team.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Pietro, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.